Okay, I'd like to call the order of the Downtown Development Authority of the Village of Oxford, February 20th, 2023 at 7 p.m. We can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Catherine, if you'd take our roll call.
Schultz.
Here.
Charles.
Here.
Powers.
Here.
Colvin. Here. Carey.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Moss. Cook. Not here. Not here.
Okay, so we have a quorum. I see on our next item here, we have our public comment on non-agenda items. We have one visitor in the audience. Mr. Medor, would you care to say something?
No, sir.
Thank you. All right, moving right along then. Our consent agenda. Approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I'll second.
Grace seconds that. All in favor? Wait, we should do a roll call because it might include financials. So, Catherine, if you could do that, please.
Sure. Johnston.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Charles.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Colvin. Yes. Carey.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Okay. Item number 6, financials. We're moving on here. Financial statements and revenue expenditure reports and our bills.
5B.
I'm sorry, I missed 5B. You're right, I just jumped right through. I'm excited. Consent approval of our minutes from the January meeting of 2022.
There's no other corrections. I'll make a motion to approve the January 2022 meeting minutes as presented.
And I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Would you like to go through the police report and
Make
code
a motion
enforcement?
to receive and file the police report and code enforcement report.
I'll second that.
Second by Grace Carey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Now we get to the financials, the financial statements and revenue expenditure reports. Okay, show me the money.
Make a motion to approve the financial statements and revenue reports and paying the bills in the amount of $12,011.93.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Clean roll call, please, Catherine.
Johnston.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Charles.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Colvin. Yes. Carey.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Looking through 6B. Six B on our agenda.
We just did that.
We
just did-
Anything,
we
any
did a-
questions about that? Anything, we're all good?
Hold on, Sharon.
DDA reports, Executive Director report. I see she's here this evening.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah,
All right.
wallflower you.
Yes, it was a busy month. Congrats on our accreditation. It went really, really well. They were most impressed with the fact that we had almost 20 business owners show up at that morning session and just give us so much praise. So they were very impressed, and just a few things that we needed to work on. But yeah, it was a really great day, great conversation. So the TIF plan is the hot item. So you'll notice tonight that we're going to make a vote on just renewing it. So what I did is I had a meeting with Tim Polback from Oakland County. He walked me through the process for the next 10 months. So I also put in here dates of when we need things done and finished. And then I just started to go through and just started to redline and move some things like he asked me to do. So we'll be meeting once a month, and he'll just kind of be monitoring our progress and helping me along the way since it is my first time. And then obviously I'll bring it to the org committee, and then we'll talk about it in here months going forward. Finished Oakland County stats report for the quarter. I applied for the Lowe's hometown grant. I actually put in the project to put in a new gazebo in the park or refinish the one that is currently there. We had that rotting wood, so we talked about that. So that's the project that I used to apply for the grant. We had some meetings with business owners. I attended village council. We'll have Joe give some updates of their newest member tonight. I had a manager's training at Oakland County that was really great. I had a leadership training at Oakland County. I started our award nomination drafts for the big awards coming up May 4th, which is the Main Street Awards that are annual. Lake Orion and Oxford, we met 3 times in the last month with them to go over the Stronger Together partnership and just working through some of the sponsorship with Liv for the trolley. We started Ice Fest. We have Restaurant Week running next week. Downtown passports are coming up in March, and that will be run with Lake Orion and Oxford. Bryce did that awesome Facebook marketing presentation, and I think I'm up to 8 business owners that reached out to me to ask if you were for hire. We did some planning on the northeast parking lot, gathered quotes for capital improvement. We finished the trolley purchase, insurance, title, scheduling, noted drivers. We ran our first day on Saturday. I worked on the project with Les and the Party Store and MEDC this month. So we started a new Instagram to try to push some different social media. We had an interview with an intern, which we'll get later on tonight. I'm working on additional grant opportunity that's through the state of Michigan, but that we could use funding for artistic. So it could either be murals or music, concerts in the park. So I'm working on that one currently. And then I placed the flower bids for downtown and scheduled cleanup days this month. That's kind of
What you do in your spare time?
just a pair of 2 flowers, no big deal.
I'd like just a couple things here on the accreditation. What would be the high point you would think? Just one of the bullet points that she thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I think the highest point is they just think as an organization with the board, the businesses, and overall DDA, how well it's operating, how smooth, how great we get along with council, and just the relationships. They think that we've just hit it out of the park on that. And then I would say what we need to work on is more administrative, like work plans in our different committee meetings. So just following more of a, I know, Ron, I know you just wanted me to say that. But yeah, but it was.
I just want to hear, you're right, you know, it's okay.
But yeah, but they were really impressed with that. So that's
Sorry. We said we get along, didn't we? All right, no, I was impressed at the number of business owners myself. That's the most I think I've ever seen together in a room in all the years I've been in Oxford. You know. The other thing, by the way, since I want to compliment, you know, going back to what you did, Bryce, I heard so many good things about that. You know, I kept thinking, wow, what a cool thing for a DDA to do, right? I just, you know, that was really impressive. Talk about adding value to our community. Yeah. Any other comments besides mine? I don't want to be the ping pong with Kelly here. Go ahead, Kelly. Anything else on the executive director report? Okay. I guess Pete and I can talk about the org committee then, right? Mr. Schultz, you want to start the parade?
We met and we began the process of putting together some of the identifiable metrics for our annual evaluation of the executive director for the recent board meeting. And some starting plans were obviously working on the TIF plan, completion of the onboarding manual and delivery to all the board members, the establishment of the written succession plan for us board members and also for the committee people. Successful completion of the northeast parking lot project, completion of the southeast quadrant project, the successful implementation of identified capital improvement projects. We made a pretty good list of those, and a volunteer recognition and acknowledgement. Restressing again the committee's function with the written agendas and attendance and minutes, and identified the DDA events are successful implemented and others carried out. So otherwise it's pretty good.
Yeah, and one correction, Kelly, on the minutes from the thing here. What we did, because Pete was working with his daughter and had to be down there during the evening. What we did is then Dorothy Johnson and Brad Jacobson came up here later on, and I filled them in on what we did at a separate meeting. So where it says absent, if we can correct that, okay?
Yep,
So in a sense, we had two org committee meetings there, we just went through the same outline.
perfect.
I just thought it was good to have them on board with the organization committee, especially since we had that feedback from our people in accreditation. And I was, and I would say this to anybody on the board, if you have ideas for capital improvements, please let Kelly know. We had a pretty extensive list, but you never know what we might miss. Okay.
I have a
Who's
question.
up with that? I'm sorry, somebody has a question?
I do.
Dorothy?
So it just came to me, like you had this really cool, like Excel spreadsheet to where we could follow the progress of some of these, projects. Is that something we can revive and bring back?
We can. So the only reason why I stopped bringing it is because I remember us talking about it where you guys didn't want to see it each month. And then, but I'm happy to put it back in there,
Yeah.
put it in the packet once a month, or it is a Google Doc that's living that you guys can access at any time. So happy to update it and
Yeah, maybe
That happened.
that would be a good way, just a visual, so we could kind of, if
For
we
sure.
wanted to, look and see. Because I see we've got a lot of new things that we're going to be kind of
we do,
throwing on there, and I know a lot of stuff's already probably been completed on the other one, so it's just kind of good
for sure.
to see. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good idea, Dorothy, thank you, because we do have a pretty extensive list of things, right?
And that's good for me too. I mean, I'm a list person, so I'm happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Promo committee? Mm-hmm. Okay, who wants to speak for the promo committee? Everybody at once? I guess Bryce, you're up to bat. Wait, he wasn't there.
I unfortunately missed the meeting, so.
But Grace, I got
Grace
that.
For Grace, who popped in.
The way to say this, I had Grace pinch hit for me, Bryce.
Yeah, so I can speak also very briefly to the EV committee first and then the promo committee. So
You're in EV committee right now?
that was
Is that what
next
you're doing?
on there.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is just really brief. So we didn't have a meeting last month. I was recovering from surgery, and as you know, Ashley resigned. I'm going to be taking over the chair position from her. So we have a meeting set up for this upcoming Friday to exchange those materials, and we will be resuming normal activities this month. For the promo committee, I had the opportunity to accidentally join the meeting this month, and it was very fascinating, especially just to get an idea of what some of the other committees are doing and working on. We went through a lot of the upcoming events, Restaurant Week, talked a lot about the trolley, implementation dates, what we're looking at for the rest of the winter season and then moving into the summer. We talked about the shopping passport, which I think is going to be very exciting to have in the downtown. And I think a big portion of our time was spent working through the concerts in the park, just making sure that we have, bands lined up and trying to consider equipment for the concerts this year. So that might look a little different than it did before. And I think that's about it.
Couple questions on the trolley then. Is there a plan to paint it or do signage or sell advertising or anything along those lines? I know that would be right now what you'd be, but Kelly, could you fill us in on that possibly?
Signage to represent the Ligurian and Oxford DDA is planned on there. We do have our final sponsorship meeting with Liv tomorrow for them to actually sign the contract that we proposed. If for some reason they only want to go through the next 6 months and not the full year, then our plan is to then sell kind of one-off signage on the trolley to make up the revenue to run it. But as of right now, it'll just have the 2 DDAs. That's the plan.
Is there somebody that needs to paint it or how do you do that?
I mean, I don't think at this point, I think we're in good shape right now.
Are you talking like a big stencil or are you talking about?
So the signage is actually like a vinyl that looks like it's painted on there, but it'll stick on the outside of the trolley.
Any questions about the trolley? You have a concert schedule, right?
So our concert kickoff is going to be what we're calling the Summer Celebration this year, and we're running it with Lake Orion because it's their first day of the Jubilee. And so what we're doing is kind of a celebration. Kids are out of school, come downtown, trying to expand it out to come downtown earlier, get them in the stores, get them in the restaurants, have dinner, then come to the concert, rather than just like, hey, show up at 7 o'clock. We actually have a few more things going on that morning, but I'm not allowed to announce it yet until Angie Green and I film a video on Wednesday, so look for that. It's pretty exciting, but I can't steal her thunder. But I think it'll be a really great day. We're also going to start farmers markets, and the promo committee thought, as well as Kimberly, who really focuses on that the farmers market will just run the concert series this year. It won't be the extended, because we saw after concerts it dropped off majorly. It was just too long of a season last year, so we learned from it. We will be charging a little bit more this year because we've had so many vendors already reach out that want to be a part of it. So hoping that $3,000 goes to $6,000 this year, making that vendor money.
Cool. That was nice, $3,000.
Yep.
Should we announce the other good news we got today about the concerts?
Sure. That I won't steal your thunder.
Sorry. It wasn't that cup of tea I had before I left, you know?
Yes.
No, I know I was gonna be really excited, especially, Grace over here, since she's a big reggae fan, she told me. I think it's Norwegian reggae. But, I got a sponsor for our reggae band today. I don't know, did he reach out to you yet?
He did not. I will look forward to his phone call.
I guess I better wait till we cash the check then, huh? It's, Dorothy, I don't know if did you do the boat cruise we did years ago and I was paying for the Lone Ranger Parade? Would you go on it? We had this band that was really, they were phenomenal. It's a legitimate reggae band, and they're pretty well known amongst those people of reggae fandom. So it's called One Love. If you want to look them up on Google or YouTube, etc. But if anybody's a reggae fan, I think they'd be pretty impressed that they're coming here. But a gentleman I had spoken with contacted me today and said he'd be willing to share the cost with the DDA so we can get him into town. Yeah, so.
So our plan this year for the concerts in the park is to have that overarching sponsor, because we have so many people looking to sponsor things this year. And then each week have a smaller sub-sponsor, and that way hoping to not even have to dig into our concerts in the park budget like we've had to in the past, and get everything fully paid for.
Dorothy?
Is Matt gonna be involved in it again this year?
No.
Okay.
No, he's
didn't
out of
know.
it. He's kind of taken on some side things from his retirement. So McKenna from Red Piano is going to help us. But our thoughts are that we'll do like an acoustic opener and not do like there were a lot of like very loud bands opening last year. And so we're going to go with more acoustic, something that appeals to everybody, do the 5:30 to 6:30. Reach out to McKenna and get some people from her studio. She already said she's willing to help. And then we'll go and have those larger acts. But we did tell all the acts that we've already reached out to this year that they have to bring their sound equipment, because we can't be responsible for that this year. But to be honest with you, I think it's better anyways, because our equipment is not great sound. So I would rather acts bring their own, because it's just a better experience for everybody.
Is there a possibility or desire, two questions in one, of tying in the sound system with the park? And would we want to do it? I mean, I know Grace loves it.
Right. So it's actually, it just wouldn't be, there's only one speaker in the park, and it sits over between Ox and Miro. So it just doesn't really make sense. Usually I just have the speaker shut off at 5:30 when concerts in the park would start.
Okay. Sorry, Grace. We turn back on afterwards.
That's right. Yeah, have it blared right in your window.
Okay, design committee, are we all set then on design committee? You want to speak up for design committee? Catherine?
Placemaking grants, I'll let Kelly give you an overview because I came late, so.
Yeah, sure. So placemaking grants, we are going to kind of have a longer design committee where we all come to the table and start to actually plot out and get quotes for what we have coming up, because this spring the T-Mobile grant is going to be due, the consumers one is going to be due, so we have a lot of decisions to make. So Nicolette, I'm letting her kind of lead that, and we're gonna have her kind of bring us some examples of what she thinks as we start to put these quotes together. There's only so much we can do. This committee meets Zoom, and I just feel like it's really important for us to sit down and kind of have this whole thing plotted out and planned. So we're gonna get together this next month and start to really dig into these grants and what this looks like for us.
We talked spring cleanup. We're trying to get all the business owners to buy in, spread the word, and if everybody here could participate, it would be great. Anybody, if you have time, I know sometimes, we all have lives, but anything we can do to get in. And Ms. Powers, I volunteered you to come up with a list for the quadrant that.
Oh, okay, sure.
Because I figure you would know.
Yeah, no problem.
What things annoy you that need to be cleaned up in that area.
Do you have a date in mind?
Besides my place.
Did we have a date?
It's, we're gonna do it Earth Day, actually,
Oh,
and
April.
that way we can
Idea.
get more of the Brownie troops and Boy Scout troops and schools involved. I just feel like everybody's so willing to help that day. I'm like, let's capitalize on it. So we're gonna do that day, and that's gonna kind of be our pre-spring cleanup where we can, do all the planters, clean everything up, if anything needs to be painted. And then we'll have a date later in May with some of the ladies that we know love to come in and plant the flowers that will actually do the flowers. But we'll wait till after Mother's Day so we don't get the last frost.
Any questions, comments for our committees? Okay. So let's take a look here. 8A, anything else on the trolley, or have we covered that? You want to mention anything else we left off?
We're in good shape. I just wanted to let you know that Lake Orion paid the entire maintenance bill, and that was already paid. They have a little bit left. It's only a couple $100. It did cost that much. There were 21 things wrong with it. And I have the full report if anybody would like to see it, but a lot of holes and things and leaks and things.
Earth Day.
But they did a wonderful job. Like Orion paid the bill. They did set aside that couple $100 into a sinking fund so that if anything else minor comes up, we can pay it. But I actually went over to Nota's Garage on Saturday before it ran and delivered the new license plate and talked with Lorraine and Rose that they were booting it up and everything looked to be in good order, and they were very thankful that we fixed those things. So they said it's running well. So good news.
Did that include the lift by chance?
No.
Okay.
So the lift is the part is completely destroyed. So it's just not an option.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Kelly, did you have an opportunity, the woman I gave you the phone number, you had a chance to get in touch with her yet from Trolley Brokers?
I haven't, but I will. I can reach out just to keep her warm, just as a
Right.
touch point.
It's a company in Colorado that brokers trolleys, and I tried reaching them earlier, but the gentleman who owns it has had some health issues, so his daughter's taking over. So I spoke with her, and by the way, and she said in our conversation that the price we got for our trolley, she was truly astonished that we got it at that kind of a low price. So, all right. So next on the hit parade, item 8B, row estimate for the northeast parking lot. Who wants to tackle that? Oh, the lady over here at the desk.
We've talked about this before, but the $9,700 increase, I would like to come to you for a motion to approve that to get started. This is in the planning and the design of the parking lot is where the increase is coming from. This does not mean that, we have to go forward with the parking lot this spring if, the finances are not there, or if the project comes in too high. But even if we decided to go forward with it next year, this still has to happen, but whatever they give us this year will still be good next year. So this has to be done anyways, and this is the first step. So, Joe, I don't know if you want to say anything about this. I mean, you work with them on a regular basis.
And if you recall last year, we got the original estimate, and then they went out and did some really better investigating, and there's gonna be a need for some core sampling and some further topographical surveys, where they come out and take all the elevations with their survey crew. That's what was added in after the fact from the original thought process. So that's what brought it up from, what was it, from, it was like 20, yeah, yep, to 27,150. So, and that's the time, and just recap, back in June, I think it was, the village, we took this to the village council and they approved taking it, because it was around 25 grand is what we had thought, and the village was gonna share that cost about 50-50. So there's also, one of the first things you'll do is have the core sampling done. Now, that was only estimated at $2,500, because that's what we had in another parking lot. It might be more, but, the overall, the village council was gonna put in, 12,450, because it was roughly half of the 2,500, or 25,000. So we're helping with that end of it, but core sampling, topographical survey, and the design work. Again, like I told Kelly, you do all that work, you get it on the shelf, they give you an engineer's estimate. At that point, you know, is it something you're gonna wanna do? Timing is, of course, something too. It depends on how quick you can get this done and designed and on the shelf. You don't wanna put this thing out to bid in June, because the contractors are so busy, the cost will be too high. But I would think you'd at least wanna move forward, get the design work, get it done. We're probably gonna do the same thing with them for our parking lot here this year. We're gonna try to budget at least for the design and engineering, which is over 100 grand. Won't be able to do any work this year, but at least get the design and engineering done this summer and potentially do a section of this next year, if possible.
Mr. Schultz?
Joe, I thought the core sampling was done last fall, which kind of drove this, and because that's where we came up with them telling us that there was soil issues in those areas.
But I think that part
That's
has
what this
been
is
done, because we already paid that bill, that's right.
Right, and this basically here is just for them to come out now and design or survey just that area of the parking lot.
We already paid for the core sampling bill, you're right.
Yes.
But that's all,
I did push back on this, and Joe was in that meeting too, because was not a happy camper that we already paid our 12.5, and now they were coming back for almost half again to us. But after that meeting,
the one where Rod and Pete were all together?
yeah,
Okay.
we really sat down, and then I understood, like, okay, this is something that we have to do. It's not something where we
Right.
just want to spend another $9,700. This is necessary to do it correctly.
And this would come from the DDA, the $9,700.
Correct.
Just make sure we know.
Okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Schultz?
I'll make a motion to approve the increase of the the expenditure of the $9,700 for the extra surveying for the northeast parking lot
I'll
with
second
road
that.
engineering.
And I'll second that. If you want to take notes. So we have a motion, we have a second. How about discussion? Discussion? Okay. Catherine, if you could do a roll call vote, please.
Clark,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Colvin, yes. Powers,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Motion carries. Checks in the mail, Joe. Okay. Main Street accreditation update.
So I received, which I thought was great timing, I received from Jackie the full report. So I just wanted to give that to you and just touch on it, that it was in there. I was just very impressed by how fast they got it back to us. I think it was months last year before I received it. So Jackie's really on top of things, but if you have any questions or if you want to talk about anything, you know, I'm always available, but very cool to have it back that quickly and it be fresh in our minds.
Having sat in the sessions I sat in, she was very impressed with things for the most part. Yeah. Like I said earlier, I was impressed with the number of people that participated. In past years, there were some meetings I went to where I was the only person in the room. I'm surprised we passed. Yeah. All right. Let's see what we have here. Any other questions on Main Street accreditation? New business, renew the TIF plan. And Mr. Medora, if I can ask you to please come back up here and explain what a TIF plan is. I thought I'd catch him unawares. He was, dozing.
Tax increment financing story plan, that thing? That's what this, where you capture money from all those entities and fund the DDA for your infrastructure improvements?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the one.
So I haven't seen your TIF plan, if that's what you're asking.
Maybe you can give us a general definition of what a TIF plan is. How's that?
Tax increment financing approved by the state legislature, put into place way before Main Street. Main Street's something that came on along a lot later from DDA statutes, right? I was sitting on Davidson's DDA in 2004 or 5 when the Main Street program first came out. And it was brand new then. And I guess the whole idea was to get, rather than just the board members, which is a lot of times the same old people working it, they wanted to draw more people in from the businesses and the downtown people. So the Main Street program came. But the DDAs and the TIFs were already in place, multi-year plans, promotion and infrastructure and development, I think was the main gist of them. And draw the line. When the economy was bad a few years ago, that was the time to draw your line, right? What you do is you establish your baseline taxes and you say, okay, any incremental increases after this point will be captured and given to the TIF authority, whether it's a LD, local development finance, downtown DDAs. And so as the properties appreciate, the appreciated amount, taxes spun off by that, stay with the authority. For instance, the vacant lots over there on Burdick, East Burdick, they're vacant. So as they get improved and they get buildings put on them or something like that, the value increases greatly, and that's all captured. So that's what finances DDAs across the state. And you'll see whenever they get to be renewed, things like that, you'll see, or like millages are on a ballot, and you'll see all this long list of people who are exempt from that millage because they aren't getting that portion because that's being captured and going to those who capture part of that will be listed on a millage renewal. Because everyone thinks, oh, well, this half mil is going to get us all this money, but then there's all these little carve-outs for DDAs and stuff around the area. But so that's how it's funded. And hopefully you get your TIF plan renewed for another, was it 20 or 25 years?
It'll be 20 years.
20 years.
We have some work to do on having people not opt out.
And I think the whole thing is, as long as you have work yet on your plan that you want to see accomplished, then they get approved. If you went to the state and said, we've accomplished everything, we're done here, I'm sure then you would fold up your DDA, but I don't think I've ever heard of one doing that. Because they generate a lot of work and good results. Infrastructure is costly. So that's a big key. But they're just for the parking lots and all the streetscapes and things like that you see around Michigan, funded in that way. So,
Good, thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
So for our DDA, like anybody else, it's a matter of, collecting money, and then people want to know how it's spent, why it's spent. And that's coming up this year with our TIF plan. The one that every time it comes up in my mind, I remember how Pete and I and others worked on it so diligently, and then it was lost. But it's kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's lost somewhere out there, Maybe one day, Joe, you'll find it on some computer. I know a guy.
So I put a TIF plan schedule in here after I got off the phone with Tim and I kind of looked through all of his notes. I put this together just to keep us on track. And this also has, a little bit of a buffer in it in case we need to present the TIF plan to be adopted twice, say. So over the next few months, I'll just be updating with org committee. We'll be going through it, making red lines. The thing that Tim told me to do, he said, you already have one. He's like, don't reinvent the wheel. Take it and just change what has to be changed. Don't get into the nitty gritty. He said, that's where I see DDA directors get so consumed where they don't get anything else done, is because they focus on every little detail. He said, you have one. He said, so use it and then just change what has to be changed. And then just you copy and paste the rest over, So just going through it, yes, there's a lot of little word changes and things, but I'm going to try not to focus so much on those little things as to just updating what needs to be updated, like the capital improvement projects that we have coming up, the ones that we have finished, for example. Those types of things. Probably the biggest thing is the one public hearing that we have to hold. It's twice in the newspaper, it's 20 public areas, it's certified mail going to the governing bodies, it's inviting every single, not business owner, but building owner in our district. So those are things that are going to take time and, you know, we'll have to be working out through the summer, which is a busy time anyway. So there's a busy couple of months coming up here. At that point in time, they do say that you can hold additional public hearings if you need to get info from the community and you want their buy-in on projects that you're going to have come up. So we can do those, but we don't have to. I think that one public hearing, in my opinion, is enough. I think if people are concerned about what's happening downtown and they want their opinion known, I feel like they'll make time for that meeting.
I think that gets back to our capital improvements list that we have. It's pretty extensive. We can all look at that at some point too. And then I think we can do that in conjunction with a normal or regular DDA meeting, can't we?
We can, yeah.
Yeah, so doesn't mean we have to have too many meetings. Catherine wants them. She gets paid the big bucks. So.
But we do need a resolution to, for the intent to request the extension tonight.
Okay, so Grace?
Yeah, I just had a question about something we might be able to do. So oftentimes, with all kinds of different projects, the public hearing phase is where a lot of communities get hung up in these processes. And in my workspace, we find it helpful to have additional touch points with the community. So I was wondering if we could maybe utilize our farmers market and just have a DDA information table where we could get people excited about the projects we have coming up, start to talk to them about like what we do, why we do it, so that when they see a TIF plan come up, because most people will not come to the public hearing on the ballot, they have, you know, tangible projects in mind that their tax dollars will be supporting.
I love this thought process, and I have to say it's coming up later because you'll see intern down here, and a booth at all of our events was one of the things we talked to her about as well. So I think not only for the TIF plan, which I think is a great idea, but just in general for information about the DDA and like all the wonderful things that we're doing and to hear from the community, I think it's a fantastic idea.
I'm gonna throw another thing in there too. It's a great idea. Thank you, Grace. Maybe that's an opportunity to ask people to volunteer or be on committees too.
1000%.
Okay,
That's great.
I'm pretty excited about getting that thing going. Okay, sinking fund.
We need a resolution on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I jumped right past that again. Listen to me. It's not even 8 o'clock. Good golly. So, in fact, Kelly, one of the things I mentioned before, in the future, when we have these things, maybe we can work on a resolution language ahead of time just to make it smoother. It might help a great deal on things like this, if that's workable. So, would someone like to introduce a resolution to that, recommendation at that point? Catherine, I hear you thinking.
I'm not sure what we need a resolution for.
You want
To
to,
renew our,
To renew the TIF plan?
Kelly, you want to help?
It's in, so Tim let me know that we need a resolution of intent to request the extension of the existing TIF plan before we started any of the process.
So I'd like to move that we begin the process of renewing our TIF plan. Can we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Marie. Discussion?
When it says a resolution, does he want a resolution typed out resolution? Or just, I mean, board action, of course, is all legal and all you need, but.
He just said the board needs to act on it.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, you said resolution, I didn't know if you need to retype.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Ryan made the motion, who's second?
I did.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Schultz?
Kelly, before we meet soon, can you email the current one to the org committee members so we can start to
You want
absorb
homework, Pete? You want homework? I'll give you homework, no problem.
it? Better than waiting until we get to the next meeting and
Yeah.
then starting to go through it. So.
Yeah, I'll send it.
Yeah, I agree, and as you've heard me say many, many times, Kelly, that a big part of what we were able to accomplish was not changing the TIF plan per se, but eliminating some of the overdone adjectives. So I wanted it to be more of a business document. So, but anyhow, it's for the org committee work on. Any other comments about TIF plan? Any recommendations, thoughts? Okay, power washing. power washing estimate from Excel Brothers. Once again, Kelly.
Yep, so Pete asked me to grab this for our planters downtown. They're pretty dirty if you've driven by them lately. So after all the snow is out of here, this would be Excel to come in and soft wash all the planters, do the benches and trash cans, and get ready for spring for all of that to pop up. So $25.50 is what they quoted us.
Comments? Are there any other companies that do this sort of work? I mean, I like Excel Brothers. I just want to know if there's another company out there.
I am sure there is, and I can gather another quote. We do have time. Or I can gather some volunteers and we'll go out there with our buckets, whatever you guys decide.
Well, I know the village manager is available on Fridays.
Heck yeah.
Sunday afternoons.
Oh, I just had a question. So maybe it's just about the breakdown of these amounts, but the amount to wash the planters is so much significantly higher than the benches and the trash cans. I was just wondering, is it because it's more difficult?
So
Or
it's the number of planters that we have. There's 68 downtown, and then it's the fact that it literally is like all four sides, and they have way more on them than the benches or anything. The benches they're not really in bad shape.
And adjoining question to that, when it says wash the benches, does that include all the new tables and chairs that we've put out?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, how do we want to proceed? Do we want to approve this, have a resolution, or?
You asked for more quotes.
I didn't ask for, I just asked if
Yeah.
something we should look into. I mean,
I think it's a good idea to have one more.
Okay. No problem. So just table it?
I guess we'll table it for now. I mean, and I will say, I've used Excel at my house, and they did a great job a couple times that my wife and I hired them. I'm very impressed with them.
Thank you.
Me too. They did a great job last year.
Okay, for the intern.
Yay. So this kind of came about, I wasn't really planning on having an intern, but Four Counties Foundation reached out to Ashley, and so before she left the board, she passed on Kathy's information to me, and we had a conversation. So they run an intern program where they bring in interns from colleges all around the country. They try to work with local students that are coming back for the summer to place them in all sorts of jobs, municipalities, law firms, things like that. So in chatting with her, it just was really, really neat because it's kind of a grant in a sense, because they take on $2,000 and then we would pay the other $2,000. And I said, if you have somebody that comes across your desk, this is what we'd be looking for. And she connected us with Regan, and Kimberly and I interviewed her just on Zoom and just loved her. She was very sweet. She's in her junior year at Ferris State, and we just told her kind of what we would be looking for. Some of it is not so much fun work. We have a lot of data entry that we would love her to do, and we would love her to sign up volunteers all summers and build a database for our volunteer program. And we went back to her and said, but some things would be like helping us set up for events and farmers markets and things like that. The nice thing is that Joe came to me and said, hey, I'd love for somebody to help me with my social media 4 hours a week. So we would actually be able to split it, and I put a breakdown on there for you, but originally it was going to cost a little bit more, and they wanted to do a 10-week program. I went back and asked for a 12-week program for a little less money, just because I felt like an intern almost making as much as my assistant doesn't sit well. So we got them to a 12-week internship, 24 hours a week. She'd be working for the village for 4 hours per week, $14 an hour, but it would actually only cost us a little less than $7 because we're only taking on half the cost. The other is covered by the grant. So she would start in late May, and she would be with us all summer. And really, it's more so getting to some of this work that we just don't have the capacity to do right now. And things that we want to do better. So the volunteer program, for example, like to be able to have a database and be able to reach out to them easily, I think this would just benefit us so much going forward, even after she's gone. These programs that would last and that data that we would have collected over the summer would just be really, really great.
Where would she physically be located?
So we have an extra desk at the village where Nicole used to sit, that she could be in there. I mean, we have a table in our office too, where I'm happy to set her up at a laptop, so either way.
Questions?
Does she, I assume she has some strengths in social media, but it's not listed on
So
here.
We talked to her about that because it is Kimberly and my dream to start a TikTok to reach the younger generation. And we had to laugh about it because we were like, Regan, do you know how to do TikTok? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, can you teach us old folk how to do it? But we also said, you know, growing our Instagram numbers because our Facebook is doing phenomenally well. But growing our Instagram numbers, setting us up on TikTok. And the other thing is too, and Bryce mentioned this during your presentation, but YouTube is going to be like, it's the future, right? As much as we've had it around for so long. So uploading all of our current material that we have, that we've done, and putting that on YouTube to start to grow that presence as well would be phenomenal. It's just, it's time consuming, right? And it's something that Kimberly and I have just kind of put to the wayside. So there's a lot of things that her younger generation knows that we're just not.
That'd be a great class for the business owners too.
Yes. Oh, and she did say that currently she works with business owners through, it's a marketing class that all the colleges have. It's a marketing club. And she right now works with business owners around Ferris State. And I said, if there were a couple business owners that needed help, would you be willing to take on some of the business owners and go and help them with social media and get them started? And she loved that. So I feel like we could share too. And it would be really good for our business owners as well.
My only concern is that you and Kimberly put a lot of effort into marketing. Now we have a third person doing marketing. How many do we need?
Well, that wouldn't be her primary, you know, we would like her to teach us some of that marketing that we're not familiar with,
But
but
still, it's marketing.
I think we have gaps, so
Well-
that she can help.
But we
Yeah.
have 3 people now doing marketing. That seems overkill.
well, the data entry is something that, it's not that I'm not great at it, it's not that Kimberly's not great at it, but it's time consuming. There are businesses that we need updated information for. So right now on our website, there are certain links that don't work. There are certain emails that keep bouncing back to us. So for her to even go out on foot to some of these businesses that we need to capture that data, that would be huge.
That's something I think be more important right there. I mean, you know, the other stuff, the foo-foo stuff, I think that would be really helpful because in all these years, we've never really had an email list of all the business owners. We've tried how many times,
And
right?
it's 90%
Right,
accurate
right.
right now, but 10% I haven't been able to get a hold of.
Maybe we just need to define her role a little bit more
Absolutely.
thoroughly and, you know, break it down into the different segments that we want
For
her.
sure, and I can give you, even send out email after with the projects that I felt like would be good for her to focus on this summer.
Grace?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, was there like a job description or internship description that you gave to the community foundation? And if so, could we see that or can we
Yes.
write one for her?
Yes, yep, for sure. Yep, Kathy and I had the conversation initially, and then we went over all of that when we spoke to her on the phone as well, or on Zoom.
All right, so we need to approve hiring this person as a summer intern. And so do we have a motion to that effect?
I will motion to accept the hiring of Regan
Regan, yeah.
for our summer intern as a partnership with the community foundation and the village.
I will second it.
Second by Marie.
Do we need to
we
include
have
dollar
a-
amount?
Yeah, I think.
What's that?
We have
Do I need to say the
dollar
dollar
amount?
amount? For 12 weeks at the total of $2,016 for the DDA contribution.
You want to second your second?
Yes, I'll
motion?
second that. Mhm.
Okay, let's have a discussion about that then too. Let me start with Bryce. I'll just go through one by one. Comments, questions, Bryce, about the intern?
No, but we could make it mandatory that she watches the training that I did.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I love that.
Which training? I didn't hear you.
The Facebook ads training.
Oh, okay. Grace?
Good kickoff.
For you?
Yeah, I think just following what everyone else has said about having some clearly defined roles, I think that'll help both us understand what her role is, but also the intern, it'll help her understand what it is that she actually needs to do and making sure that we're not piling too much on someone who's a student
really
that's only here for a couple of hours a week.
I agree with what Grace is saying. Plus, as I said, I want to make sure that we don't, triple up on just marketing kind of things, that we're doing something a little bit more administrative.
Yeah, we could,
Marie?
to add on to that, we could even assign percentages, 40%.
Dorothy?
I think you guys covered it.
Kathy?
No, we're good.
Pete? I'm good. Okay, so let's take a roll call vote then, please. Kathy?
Sure. Johnston.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Charles.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Colvin, yes. Carrie.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Just make sure that desk is ready there, Mr. Mador. Better be clean. That's all we want to know. Well, we have it power washed on the next quote. Okay, interns, or item 10, nothing was removed from the consent agenda. So we're down to item 11. Oh, doggone it, I was too slow.
No, I'm under board member comments, so. I know I'm an
You are
I'm an ex officio non-voting member, but that's why I like it. I just want to, for those who weren't there or saw, council chose a new council member last Monday night. Jacob Nicosia was on Pontiac here. It's an old historic home on Pontiac, him and his wife and his children. Been here for many years, very much looking forward to chipping in the community. He was willing to work on council, if not council, planning commission, because we have a vacancy there. So the rule of the time of 5 women running me is over. We have a man on the board again. Not sure if it's going to be good or bad, but it's just a fact.
Is this being recorded? You're in trouble.
Yes, absolutely. The other thing is we had a surprise visit from MDOT a couple weeks ago in the form of a bill of $43,000, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. It still never has said what their contract says, and eventually you'll see when it says final bill. We still haven't seen that. That was for preliminary engineering, and we always knew preliminary engineering was part of the contract we signed. We never saw any bills for it because the bills don't say anything. You get a bill that has dollar amount, and it never tells you what it is. You go online and you can find all kinds of spreadsheets and vouchers and payment vouchers and quantities and rates, what Dan's Excavating did and what they charge MDOT for, but never the two shall reconcile. So I went back and did some looking around. The village had 200 grand up front to put in, plus we had some water infrastructure projects, and there was a lot of talk about our major streets and sewer and maybe some loans here and there to get us over the hump, because we all assumed, I think initially back in the task force, that it might be done in one fiscal year, right? So everyone's planning their budgeting for one fiscal year, so we thought, well, might have to reach out in the next fiscal year. Well, it's stretched out over 3 fiscal years now, so it spread our money out longer. So I did reach out and look and see there was some water fund money we still had unspent, so that covered the bulk of that. It was like 35 or so of the 43,000 that we had yet to use for our water fund for some water infrastructure work. And then the other part, and a lot of those task force things we kept showing, major streets. One of them said 50,000, one of them said like 100,000, and I always questioned it. I don't know that it didn't say that was going to be any type of a loan to the fund and back, because we can't use our street money on, I can't use major street money even on our local streets, let alone on a street that's not on our jurisdiction, the MDOT highway. But there was some notes in there about the major streets maybe contributing to the M24 Burdick intersection improvements. So I went out and looked, and there are some areas of the project that went beyond the MDOT right away. Small, 20, 40 feet on either side of the intersection. So I was able to reach out to our Act 51, which is our gas tax people out in Lansing, and verified if I could use our major streets money to cover that portion of the rest of the bill. So like the last $7,300 we covered through our major streets fund. So that bill is done and being processed and paid now. It still never said final bill. I would assume if we get anything from MDOT now, it'd be in the tens or hundreds of dollars, not in the tens of thousands of dollars. There's really nothing else I could think of that's lingering out there. They have the sidewalk up on 59 North, which is wholly their debacle and wholly their cost to relocate the tree and the underground street light as well. That is, again, all of them. I know we get questions every now and then, what's going on there? And of course, last summer I told them, well, if you're going to remove the sidewalk, it has to be replaced by winter. It can't go through winter without a sidewalk. And yet here we are, winter's almost over and there's no sidewalk. Again, MDOT's road, MDOT's jurisdiction, MDOT's project, MDOT's problem. We just signed the contract in 2019, said, you send us the bill and we'll pay it or else. If we don't pay the bill, then they just keep our money, our tax money and our road money. And anyway, so we have no choice but to pay the bill. I just hope it's the last one of any size that we get. And I don't really anticipate anything else coming.
They can't say yes or no?
Pete?
What?
Pete? I'm sorry, Dorothy, but Pete?
I thought Brian, last email or conversation we had with Brian said, this is it.
Yeah, and then Brian is the project manager, right? So he's talking about Dan's and Dan's work and their stuff, right? There was construction engineering and construction costs all rolled in. And then there's preliminary engineering. That was always part of the original contract. But again, we never had any invoice that said preliminary engineering. There was an estimated cost of preliminary engineering of $60,000, but we never got a bill for it. $43,300 for some reason was the very first check we wrote them in 2019 as our down payment, like escrow money in a way. Here's something to start whittling away at as you design and engineer and plan the project. We never heard anything else about that. It was all payments that came through for Dan's excavating and on-site personnel and stuff like that.
Dorothy? Dorothy, go ahead.
And so they can't really say if this is it? Huh.
Pete?
The actual engineering portion of it would have been technically pre-Dan's, because it would have been for AECom and the other contractor that was out here that did the actual design work.
And they refer to it as preliminary engineering and or staff time too throughout the process. So again, there is never a breakdown of what that preliminary engineering cost is, and as well as all the invoices that come through over the years. I mean, you literally get an invoice with $1 or $2, two numbers on it that are with the code. But you go online and there's 300 lines on a spreadsheet, and you have to figure out which ones they did, what quantities they did, and things like that. But still, there's never any reconciliation of those. I know the township got a large bill themselves a couple weeks ago of the preliminary engineering.
$200,000.
Yes. But again, the state of Michigan says it's our project. You sign the contract and pay it, or we'll just keep your money that we owe you anyways.
We're trying to end this meeting on a high note.
The high note is the DDA did not have to contribute at all to the $43,000 bill. I declared it for you.
Wait a minute, let's get a round of applause. Come on.
I want to thank Joe because he had to deal with my attitude when he came in and told me that we had a bill for $43,000. But thank you for finding that money.
I had to do some digging.
Yeah.
And I think all of us who've been involved in these things, especially what Pete has, and Joe, myself to a lesser extent, but it's amazing how MDOT is.
It's amazing.
It's, do they function maybe is the question. And if anyone wonders why government in general is despised, I think MDOT would be the poster boy for inept government organizations. And that's on tape, I hope. So, anyhow. A few stories there too, but like we said, the township got a bill for over 200 grand. And I went through with the township clerk for about an hour one day, and you know how detailed Mr. Wright is. And he was mystified, just like Mr. Medor. And
I shared all my breakdowns, because that's the breakdowns of the federal dollars, TAP grants, eligible ones, non-eligible costs, and then the township ones would always be down there too. I would highlight those, make sure that, okay, we're not responsible for those costs, here's what we're responsible for. And you can tell what the voucher, your total is in that voucher, but then you get some bill out of left field that has totally no correlation to that whatsoever.
interesting. Okay, thank you again, seriously. Yeah, that was serious regardless. So we can move on now to other board member comments. I stand correct again.
Real board members.
The voting board members. Let's really slice it. Pete?
Thank you, Joe, for taking care of that. to Kelly and to the rest of the board for our Main Street review. Great job, a ton of work that was put into it. And it shows that everything, throughout the year that we've done paid off in the long run, so good job.
Catherine?
I did some digging into the 501c3. It's very complicated. Piggybacking on someone else is really not gonna be an option. In order to do it, we would have to hire lawyers, auditors. It would be an involved process. That being said, I don't necessarily want to dismiss the idea, just make sure I want everyone to understand, it's a very complicated process. In order for us to get our own, it would likely take at least 2 years. And if we were to try to, the Rochester Foundation has something we could possibly use, but they will charge us administration fees. There's no, somebody said there were no admin fees. There are. So, yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised when I found that out. I was like, of course there's admin fees. Who's going to do all this for nothing? So that's just for the board's information. We can pursue it more going forward, but it is pretty complicated.
Thank you for looking into that.
Yeah, no problem.
Dorothy?
Is there any update on the WECO project?
He has been attending every village council meeting. So he attended this past one, and then he had a meeting with you separately, correct, on Thursday?
Yeah.
Do you want to give any further update that he gave you on
Great.
Thursday?
Yeah, it was,
Specifically related to some of the projects, the design, the prints. He's already pulled permits for the underground piping on the first floor is what has to be done next. You have to dig the trenches, get all the drains in. There's a salon going in there. All those plans have been turned in. I think some of the permits have even been issued. There was some minor things with some of the blueprints, notations on there. Instead of exit, it said exists, or vice versa. They had gas, water heaters on there. Now they want to use electric. So there's some changes that had to be done. And unfortunately, Mr. Reckel's architect passed a couple weeks ago. He was in the hospital. We knew he was in the hospital. We'd hoped he was coming out. So the guy who's been doing these plans for the last couple of years, and who actually did the work for the first floor tenant, Valor, because they had some complications with their first two architects, and then finally Mr. Weckel's architect did her design plans for her stuff. So now he is deceased. So that put a little monkey wrench in it. He came in, we met with the building official to try to let him go on some of these things, because they're not major. We just have to have the drawings eventually corrected and those updates on the drawing. And we met with his electrician in that day to say, look, okay, we understand you're switching from gas, water heaters to electric. You're going to need to show different things. You're going to show some, I know some of the lightings and stuff like that, the voltages in there. We're trying to work with them to do the work, get it done. We'll fix the documentation after the fact, because it could take him a couple months to find somebody to pick up and go. I mean, but the work is still continuing. All the glass work is in. The only exception is where the south side is a garage door there that they use for access. Eventually, when they're done with the interior heavy work, vehicles and pouring cement, that'll wall be bricked in and be a window with there.
Council's been doing a great job of holding him accountable. He has showed up for every single meeting. I will tell you that the garage is down, and he said that the parking lot was scheduled for the end of March to begin.
It's under contract, so then the land
That's
balancing.
the first time that he said it has actually been under contract and scheduled. So, but he'll be at council meeting next month as well. So I feel like it's finally making progress, because he does have to show up and answer to them every
A few weeks ago, they had to redo some of the water coming in from Burdick Street as well. Some of those valves and stuff had to be redone and replaced. One froze a couple years ago, and they put something temporary on it. But that's been redone. That's all been accomplished. I know a couple electrical permits have been done for the elevator service and stuff like that. So something, the siding up along top, I thought would be done by now. I think it's been ordered. I think his siding and roofing guy is the only thing holding him up at that point. So, on north and south, what he calls those bump outs.
Thanks, Joe.
It's been.
Thank you for asking the question about it.
We had a little hiccup on the title. Title company reached out to me a few weeks ago. Months ago.
They aren't familiar with DDAs. So when they saw tracking back the title, they're saying, well, it went from the Oxford Community Development Authority to Oxford Downtown Development Authority. Who's that and how did that happen? And so I had to go back. I found the minutes in 2000 or 1995, I think, is when they changed the name from Community Development to Downtown Development. Found the minutes, went back to them. They still were like, we need, like a Scrivener's error or something like that, some title work perhaps. And here's, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I do not want to be slowing him down.
Right.
So I was on that. So eventually I talked to them, the ATA title and their legal counsel, and I sent them the statute, DDA statute too, because they weren't that familiar with DDA statute. Like, who's this Village of Oxford DDA, Downtown Development Authority, but yet they stole property from Community Development Authority, and, you know, who are they, and do we have proof they even exist? And once I sent them the statute and those minutes from back in 95, they said last night, finally I hadn't heard from them last week, I emailed the lady. She said, their legal team is fine now, they should be fine. That was gonna affect each property over there as they try to do the title work.
Where's this being done? What state?
It was local, I think. Michigan, I believe. I think it was just in Metro Detroit. ATA title, I think it was.
Well, thanks again, Joe.
Never dull moment, huh?
Well, you know, to that point, it's interesting over the years how things have not been, records haven't been kept. I mean, in my little building, I'm not even really sure the boundary lines are, you know?
Public hearings, I found the meeting minutes. Public hearings were done when they had options to change the name and they had to choose the Downtown Development Authority. They did it. They didn't go out and change it on the title of the property they had, but it was officially changed.
Marie?
No, just congratulations to us on the reaccreditation, and sorry you had to miss it, but great work. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Miss Carrie?
Just echoing everyone else's sentiments today.
Yep, no comment.
Oh, come on, Bryce.
Echo it.
You're so noisy down there. That's why he sits by himself. My comments, once again, thanks, Bryce, and the accreditation was pretty great. That's nice to see. Joe, do appreciate these things, you know, even though I also enjoy kicking a little bit here and there. Yeah, I know you can handle it, big guy. And to what Joe just said, some of the things that we want to make sure that we do in our committee meetings as well as our board meetings is, you know, have these notes and take good records so that when these things come up, that there's some verification, like he just proved, right? So if you hear me saying, let's have minutes and let's have notes and let's know who's there, there's a reason to do that. We might not be around, just like, what was that, 1995? Thank God you found the minutes, so we can kind of keep that going. And then one last comment, I sent an email out if anyone's interested. At the township, we're having our township attorney coming in and doing a meeting on how to run a meeting. Brittany Allison, she's a pretty sharp person, she works for the Kelly Law Firm. Catherine, I think you'd agree that she seems like she knows her stuff.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
So, and that meeting's gonna be at 5:30 on March 8th. And as I said in the email, if you get a chance to come by, that'd be great. You don't have to sit there, you can wander in and wander out or whatever else, but, and it's gonna be more relation, I'm sure, to townships, but it would give us a headline. And I was mentioning to Kelly a little bit early, and some of the people here early, I was at a convention this weekend, and this whole thing about running meetings and Robert Rules of Orders, oh, it was ugly, it was intense, but there is a reason for these things to be taken care of, so that's my comments for the day. Anything else anyone wants to say? Okay, meeting adjourned at 8:08. Thank you very much.
Wasabi.